Welcome back to Burn the Ship, the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs, professionals to help you go all in on your business. I'm your host, Ezra Brown. Without further ado, I'm going to allow my guest to introduce herself.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Laura Schell with Integrate2 Physical Therapy. I'm a physical therapist.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Dr. Laura. I very much appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I know a little bit more about you than most people that are going to be behind the camera, but give us a story, a little insight onto you, your journey, and how you became where you're at in physical therapy.
So I was always involved in sports as a high schooler, middle schooler, and knew that I wanted to go into the medical profession, but I wasn't really sure what avenue I wanted to take. And when I was in college, I volunteered at a hospital and learned very quickly what I didn't want to do. I started marking things off my list. Nursing was not for me. But when I spent some time with athletic trainers and physical therapists, I knew that was a good fit for me to bridge medical world with sports.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So obviously you were a former college athlete too, so you got
Correct.
to spend a lot of time around ATs.
Yes.
A lot, especially being a cheerleader, getting your ankles wrapped, wrist wrapped all the time. So
Fortunate for me, I had no major injuries, so that was a blessing.
Good,
But
yes.
not everybody was so lucky on my team.
Exactly. What would you say, though, kind of drew you more into that once you got around it? Obviously, it is one of those jobs where you do get to be social with your patients. You know, it's one of those things, and you get to watch them go from unhealthy to being very healthy. But what kind of drew you towards physical therapy?
Well, I went to college in the mid to late 90s, and one of the things that drew me to physical therapy versus going to medical school or some other of the other schools is right around the time that managed healthcare plans were coming out.
Okay.
And I started to see what was happening with the HMO plans and things starting to dictate a lot of our healthcare system.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the physicians and PAs were not being able to do what they wanted to with their patients because of the guidelines of the insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to find something that I could establish a relationship with my patients and be able to watch them improve from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And physical therapy would allow me to do that.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about your journey in physical therapy, because obviously you don't just start up your own venture. So you've had to have either worked for somebody, kind of intern somewhere to start your venture. What did that look like for you to get to where you are now, to know how you wanted to run your business?
Well, for me, when I first graduated from physical therapy school, I was fortunate enough to take a job right out of physical therapy school with a company that I had interned with my last semester of physical therapy school, and it was actually in Carrollton, and we covered West Georgia sports.
Oh, yeah.
So it allowed a versatility for me to work in outpatient as well as we had to take weekend call at the hospital. So I got some experience in the hospital, which I didn't care for that much, and I figured that out very quickly. But it allowed me, we also covered several of the local high schools for football injuries and things like that. So it gave me a good experience in a lot of different realms of physical therapy. And it was a good fit for me, being a young therapist, trying to figure out which avenue I wanted to pursue.
Right, exactly. So, because there is a ton of avenues in physical therapy, which I don't think about until you really sit down and start thinking about the verticals and jobs. And physical therapy could have just dealing with older people, then just dealing with sports, or just dealing with this sport.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about what your specialties are.
So for myself, I primarily, I've been in physical therapy for 24 years, and I learned very quickly that outpatient physical therapy was a good fit for me because it's more sports related. Most of the patients that I see are pretty high level physically, meaning they are not wheelchair bound. They have a sports injury. They've had total joint replacements. They've had a car accident that they're not able to function quite as effectively as they should be, but they're not requiring 24/7 care.
Right.
And that led me to the niche of outpatient orthopedics and what else could I learn or what else can I do to help these athletes to be better at what they're doing or better at their job. We see a lot of workers' comp patients as well, and most of the people that we see have been injured on the job and they want to get back to work, and how can I get them back to work quickly?
Right, absolutely. With that, so me being an athlete, and I've been hurt my fair share of times, especially in my college career. I spent a lot of time in the athletic training room. there you do get a bond with your athletic trainers very very quickly, which I'm sure you've went through too. And,
Yes.
and you get as being the person taking care of the patient, you probably get in that same relationship with them.
And I think that's one of the things that's super important with trying to make these kids as well as adults get back to where they have to buy into physical therapy and athletic training, because at the end of the day, I can tell them all day long what to do, but they have to do the work. And if they don't buy into it, then they're not going to be successful and they're not going to get better.
Absolutely.
And it's about making those relationships.
For sure. And that kind of segues me into a question is, do you ever turn people away? Like, do you have an ideal client that you look for?
I mean, there's always ideal clients. I don't ever turn people away, but I am very, and Ezra, you know me, I'm kind of matter of fact. I always kind of give the patients, here's what I expect of you. Here's the expectations. I expect you to do this. If you don't, it's only going to hurt you.
Right.
It doesn't help you.
Right.
And if they choose to do it, that's on them.
Right.
But I won't consistently see somebody that I know they're not doing the work.
Right.
They usually either fall off, meaning they don't schedule to come back, or they don't get any better and they get frustrated.
Right. And
they quit.
Try to blame it on you.
Yeah.
Essentially. Okay, that makes sense. So when you guys are going and, obviously, I guess, do y'all, for patients, do y'all do like a screening with them to kind of see if it's somebody that is going to be a good fit for you, to where you could refer them to somebody else that may be a better fit, or kind of how does that work for you?
The first day when we do a physical therapy evaluation, it's kind of a comprehensive screening. If it's somebody that I don't feel that is a good fit for our office, or I feel like that we may not be able to have the resources to help them, then I will refer them after that visit. Say, this is what I think. I would like you to go see the neurosurgeon or whoever it may be, if it's somebody I don't feel like that we can help. But generally speaking, most of the people that we have come into our office, we're able to help in some capacity, some way.
That's awesome. And then what kind of separates you guys, between you and another outpatient physical therapy office? What's the difference between you and them?
So I've worked in corporate physical therapy for probably the first 10 to 15 years of my physical therapy career. And like I alluded to earlier, with the HMO plans and some of the insurance plans, you have a lot of restrictions as far as what you're able to do or how long you can see somebody. And the bigger the company is, the more corporate the rules are. And when Ellen, my business partner, Ellen Parker, and I decided to go out on our own, we wanted to create an environment that we could try to help everybody some way, somehow. If their insurance ran out, then we would find or create a plan that we could pay cash for, or within the guidelines of the insurance rules. So that you just don't see in corporate physical therapy, because they have certain rules and they're very hard rules. But we try to come and create a plan that is convenient and cost-effective for a patient so that they can get better. And if they truly want to get better, then they'll figure out a way to pay for it.
Absolutely. And that is one thing that I have, we network around each other, so I hear great things about you guys all the time. So thank God I haven't been hurt other than pulled a quad for softball, but I had to come see you.
That's good.
But for that day, when that day does come, I will come see you guys.
That's good.
Most definitely. So tell me a little bit, you and Ellen, obviously, did y'all start it together?
Yes.
So y'all been fully together since y'all started Integrate2 Physical Therapy?
So Ellen Parker and myself are childhood friends. We've been friends since we were kids. And she went a different route than I did in college, high school and college, and decided to go to physical therapy assistant school without I knowing, and without her knowing that I was going to physical therapy. It was just kind of divine intervention, I would say.
Right.
And she worked in the geriatric population for probably the first 15 years of her career, mostly in nursing homes and home health care. And we were sitting around at her house one day just talking and frustrated with the corporate physical therapy system. And I said to her, one day I'd like to own my own business where I don't have to worry about insurance, this, that, whatever. And the very next day she called me up on the phone. She goes, "Are you serious?" I said, "Serious about what?" And she said, "About owning your own business." I said, "Well, yeah, absolutely, one day." She goes, "We can do this." And that's where it started. So we started planning while we were working our other full-time jobs on how we could devise and start seeing patients on our own and building the structure and building the business model. And it took us about 6 months to a year to do before we really got to start seeing patients.
That's awesome, though. That's freaking awesome.
And all the while of both of us have 3 kids apiece and working full-time jobs, it was a little bit of a nightmare for a while.
Right. No, that's awesome, because it leads me to my next one is, what did you guys do really well that obviously kept y'all in business for this long? You know, that's one of those things where you started out, it was kind of, and then it's here. Like, it's obvious, it's real.
So, like I said earlier, I think establishing a good relationship with your patients is very important. And buying into what they do or what they want to do makes a really big difference. Like you were talking about sports.
What do you mean by that?
For instance, what I'm saying, so we have a lot of high school athletes. One in particular I can think of right now, he's a lacrosse player. He's actually a very good lacrosse player. And we always ask him how lacrosse is going, this, that, and the other. And he's doing very well. But he was talking about his senior night. And I was like, when is it? I want to be there. And so I went to watch his senior night and be there for his senior night. And that means a lot to these kids when you see them weekly in the clinic and they're working hard and they're trying to get better. And that's what I mean by making a conscious effort to establish a relationship and also learn what's going on in their life.
Right. Learn what they like to do, their hobbies, things like that.
That way you can cater their program towards what they want to do.
Because then you know what they're not going to want to do whenever what's on there. So
if you don't make it fun or exciting, especially when it comes to teenagers and kids, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Especially me being a kid, I spent some time in physical therapy, I guess 13 through 15 for my elbow. And every time I'd go in there, I just didn't want to do anything. My grandparents dropped me off after school going here. Thank gosh the doctor I had was awesome. It was the guy over at Tanner in Villarica for a long time. It wasn't Slappy, though. I know Slappy because he was my doctor in college. But whoever it was, he did really good keeping me involved, but especially for being a corporate setting like that, and me being
it makes a huge
12,
difference in your
old.
Recovery.
Most definitely. And I appreciate you sharing that with us because that does matter. Like, especially we see it in our industry every day. Like if I don't become personable, you're not gonna let me deal with your finances.
The other thing that we do, I think, really well is, making sure that the patients are taken care of, not just from a physical therapy standpoint, but from the minute they call the office to when they leave. And when they're done, we always tell them, hey, even though you have graduated from physical therapy, we're always here if you need us. If you just want to call and ask us a question, or you forget what your exercise program is and you want a refresher, please call us. Call us. We're here to help you.
Right, absolutely. You guys have been with us. It's not like we just kick you to the curb right when we're done with you. We don't want to see you again.
Right.
That's awesome. All right, on the other side of that, what'd you do not so well? What were some of the things y'all struggle with? It could be something y'all still struggle with.
Yeah,
now.
One of the biggest problems that we have had with a small business is obviously space. Always finding an appropriate space for us. The long-term goal is for us to be able to buy a building or renovate a building to make it how we want it to be. We've always had some constraints with wherever we have leased because there's only so many walls you can knock down, or so many walls they'll let you knock down.
Right.
So that's been a problem as we've continued to grow, but we've always seemed to make it work. The other thing is in the physical therapy world, and this is probably true of any smaller business, is finding another good physical therapist. We're constantly looking for another physical therapist right now. We really would love to have a physical therapists to come on board with us to help myself with the evaluations and to continue to grow the company, but somebody that has the passion that we do, and having a front office staff that it cares as much as we do about our patients.
Right, absolutely. They're your front lines.
They're the first person that the patient see and the last one they see when they leave. And so that's really important. Early on, we had a hard time finding somebody good. We have a really great person right now, but she's also has a teaching degree, and I know she probably wants to get back to teaching in the near future. So that we'll be looking for somebody at some point.
That's tough, and I hear that a ton is finding quality people. That is one of those things whenever I ask that same question. To a lot of people, it's either they didn't do really good on their bookkeeping and things like that just because they're really good at their business, or it's we can't find quality people. And I've heard that one has been my most common answer the past couple weeks has been everybody's saying quality people, and I feel like it's a lot to do with my generation.
Well, and I think a lot of it has to do with COVID too. The whole corporate structure, the whole work environment, workforce totally changed with COVID.
Right.
And a lot of businesses, probably much like your business, was able to adapt really easy because you don't see clients in person every day. But in the physical therapy world, we typically see patients every day in the office. And we were able to adapt our schedules during COVID, which was great. And quite frankly, I think we grew during COVID because we only provide one-on-one skilled physical therapy services and not multiple patients at a time.
Right.
So we actually grew during that time because people would come because it was one-on-one. Even though we were in all of our gear, mask and gloves and all that craziness. But people don't want to go to work every day and work. They want a hybrid. They want flexibility. And what I would say to people like that is I feel like rather than the corporate entity, we're fairly flexible. The patients will come when you're there.
Right.
The patients will come when you're there. So adapting a schedule that makes them feel like they're wanted and needed, but also have enough flex time in their personal stuff. Special life.
That makes a lot of sense because that's So that's how this podcast started. Essentially, was over COVID. Our business is completely face to face. You know, we have a viral YouTube channel, which is the other side of what we do here. But was like, why don't we just put up a media channel that has it and invite people to come onto it that are already in our network and/or that we're looking to prospect. Let them talk about their business and give it back to them, and then. Now we've done 700 episodes.
Wow, that's a lot.
You're crazy. Yeah. But no. So, Laura, I asked 2 questions to end the podcast to every one of my guests. One is going to be, what do you want to do with your time? I got a really good idea what it is for you, but what is it you want to do with your time? Whenever you got integrated physical therapy, you and Ellen can step away. Y'all got physical therapists running it. Y'all just show up once or twice a month and make sure y'all are still breathing. Exactly.
You know what I want to do when I retire. I'm an avid exerciser. I love to work out, and I do fitness shows on the side. So obviously, probably do that, expand that a little bit, and travel. I love to travel. My husband and I like to travel. And for the last probably 10 years, most of our traveling has been travel ball sports. And so we'd like to go travel some places that don't require a travel tournament.
Softball or volleyball anywhere. I meant baseball or volleyball anywhere you go to.
Correct.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I figured it was going to be travel. Yes, my parents, that was the first thing. As soon as I graduated college, they were like, yep, we're taking off a couple times a year. See you later. Let us know. Take care of our dogs.
For so long, when you're raising children and you're working, your life is so consumed by what they're doing.
Right.
And so I'm finally getting to the point where my kids are getting a little bit older, and I can see that maybe, hey, I could travel somewhere.
You're one more away. You're one more away.
One more away.
One more away. All right, and then thank you for sharing that with us. And the last thing for you is burning the ship. So obviously the podcast name is Burn the Ship. Do you know where we got it from?
No.
So Burn the Ship. Central American keister Hernan Cortez lands in modern-day Mexico, makes his men disassemble their ships and take off all their supplies, lights the ships on fire and burns them on the beaches. And it was signed to his men they were going to make it there or they were going to die trying. They were going to build a new civilization and start from scratch. And you did the same thing with Integrate2 Physical Therapy. What was that emotion like for you whenever you left corporate and fully went and burned the ship?
I felt free. I felt free to make my own decisions and free to do how I wanted to do it and treat people the way I wanted them to be treated.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's why you essentially did it.
Mm-hmm.
You got any
Absolutely.
more feeling on that?
Well, and two, for me, scheduling too. Mm-hmm. I feel like when my kids were smaller, there was a lot of things that I missed just because I had to work so much.
Right.
And you only have your children for a very short period of time to make an impression. So, yes, I work hard, and yes, I see a lot of patients, but being there for my children is probably one of the most important things because they're going to be gone before too long.
Yeah, absolutely. We get in and out of the house by 18, some of us still 24. So, but yeah, so whatever it is your walk of life.
Hopefully 18.
Laura want to travel. But no, Laura, tell the people where to find you. and then we'll link your stuff down below. But tell people where to find you guys.
Yes, so Integrate2 Physical Therapy is located at 110 Evans Mill Drive, Suite 205 in Dallas, Georgia. 30157. The phone number is 678-909-9278. We look forward to seeing you for all your physical therapy needs.
Thank you so much for joining us today and burn the ship.
Thanks for having me.